actually the women who are not menstruating who have the most reason to perform the ritual. So it's the older women, the sisters, the aunts, the mum of the girl who started to menstruate, who have a real motivation to grab that girl and celebrate her period and participate in her blessing, if you like, her fertility. And Camilla talked about this, Camilla Power talked about this last week. Obviously you weren't here last week. So maybe, do you want me to sort of say, take about 3 minutes to sort of explain the sort of theory? It's Camilla's theory largely, not mine, but I totally agree with it. Okay, so what we do here, we link biological anthropology with social and cultural anthropology. Everything happens at UCL, that's why I love it. It's because we don't do what it means to be human in halves, what it means to be a body, and then what it means to be a mind. We think we are embodied, like we were just hearing now about women's embodiment. So, if you're doing biological anthropology, you really don't have a choice about whether to agree with Darwin. I mean, you just have to think, well, I'm sorry, but Darwin kind of got it, okay? If you're a scientist, I know Donald Trump and people don't like Darwinism, and fundamentalist Christians don't like Darwin, but if you're doing animals, Darwinism is it, really. Every educated person, I think, knows that. And why am I saying that? It's because before you get morality, before you get religion, before you get symbolic culture, we would have lived something like the way non-human primates live. And what happens is that the alpha male gets somebody pregnant, moves on, gets somebody else pregnant, moves on, gets somebody else pregnant. And that's because the male is kind of designed to maximize what we call his fitness. His body knows how to get those genes of his into the future. And the male will get more of his genes into the future by getting somebody pregnant, and then another one, and then another one, and another one, than he would by being nice and faithful to one female. So one male can get a whole bunch of females pregnant, and then he's doing well by those standards. So now, as I was saying, by the way, this is just Camilla Power's theory and Sarah Herder's theory, and according to my theory, and most of us agree with it here. Okay, what happened was that the human female, in the course of evolution, was less and less able to afford that kind of roving male strategy, as we call it. And the reason was that evolving human females living in larger groups, coming out into the savannah, leaving the forests, threatened by predators, therefore seeking safety in numbers, more complex social life, putting pressure on the brain to be more clever about calculating who's your enemies, who's your friends. Okay, babies needed to have larger brains, but the problem is that larger brain babies are more costly and burdensome, and therefore females needed to do things to counter that roving male strategy. And what happened was that, okay, the dominant male, he needs to save time on sex. He wants to know who to get pregnant, when. So, and of course, cutting a huge lot of stories short, the female, if she wants to save time on sex, because why do you need more sperm once you're pregnant? You need to do other stuff. She gives a signal with her body, and it's called an estrous signal, like a swelling. And that tells the male, right, this is when I'm ovulating, this is time to have sex with me, but it's like a relatively brief period of sexual receptivity. And the evolving human female didn't want to save time on sex, because her idea is to make it harder and harder. I don't say her idea, that's the wrong way of putting it. The evolving human female, under Darwinian natural selection, evolved a body which made it harder and harder for the roving male strategy to work. And how do you make it harder? You don't give away the vital information, you conceal it. So the evolving human female increasingly concealed ovulation so that it becomes a secret, and extended receptivity through the cycle, so that the male has got no information as to when to have sex. And if he wants to get anyone pregnant, he's got to hang around and have lots and lots of sex, spending time which the female can then make use of if he's somebody who can provide some other help, other stuff than sperm, like giving food and stuff. So, in a minute, yes, okay. So now, okay, long story. What happened was that although concealing ovulation worked, what it did is a bit paradoxical. Once the evolving human female had phased out that signal of fertility, it left salient another signal which previously had been not very interesting. So, okay, gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, they menstruate, the females menstruate, but nobody's interested, the males don't care. Why? Because menstruation just means you'll be fertile in 2 weeks. Ovulation means you're fertile now, so they're much more interested in the estrous swelling. But the human females phased out estrous swelling, which then leaves salient, only one signal left, which the alpha male can home in on because that's the one he can get pregnant. Can you see what happened? If males are any use, if they're providing anything you can, time, commitment, energy, food you can use, you don't want the male that's got you pregnant suddenly going off and chasing after the one young woman maybe in the community who's showing by the fact that she's cycling that you can get her pregnant. So, okay, I'm going to put this in a very stark form now. Please don't get upset, I'm a scientist. Biological menstruation becomes dangerous. Menstruation left in its raw biological state becomes a threat because it gives away vital information to the males. And the danger is that all those males, and they'd all be roving males if they can get away with it, will then pile in on the one female that can get pregnant, maybe fight each other, but whatever it is, it'll be at the expense of all the other females. And so what happened, we're sure of this, the other females had a strategy to conceal even that information. And so what happens, the older women, who would be threatened by one young girl capturing all the attention, got to her first. So the older women, okay, grab that girl, stop her being a threat, surround her, bond with her, sing with her, dance with her, intertwine the legs with her, turn the threat into a, if you like, turn the curse into a blessing, turn the threat into a celebration. And the reason why we have these menstrual rituals is to turn around what would otherwise be a dangerous giveaway of vital information to the males who don't want to have that information. And then in the course of that, women linking with each other, you have to prevent the males from seeing any distinction between her and everyone else. It's like the women are saying, if you want sex, you're going to have to be nice kind of to all of us. We don't want you picking and choosing between us on the basis of our biological signals. So sing together, dance together, and then paint up together. And how do they do that? Ochre. We had this whole talk last week about how the world's first art was on the body, and we now know what the pigments were. They were red ochre crayons. The earliest archaeological evidence of art is the form of these brilliant red ochre crayons, rather like lipsticks, used across the body. So, and it was the women who were not menstruating who had most to gain in making sure that ritual was performed. Of course, in a natural fertility population, without contraceptives, most women for most of the time won't be menstruating. They'll be pregnant or nursing. Only now and again will somebody have weaned their baby and start cycling again, or only now and again will a girl come into menstruation. So menstruation is a relatively rare thing, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be kind of dangerous in the sense that it will flag up, like a red flag, the fact that one woman can be got pregnant when the others can't. And the danger is this philandering male who has to be kind of dealt with. And when I'm saying that, what I'm saying is, and we're all saying this, we became human. We escaped Darwinism. We're not Darwinians anymore. Men are lovely, okay? They're wonderful creatures, incredibly kind, sensitive and generous. I'm one of them. but it's women who domesticated us and made us relatively nice. I mean, we're not all that nice. There's all kinds of things about us, and especially if we let us have too much power. But I do get into trouble. People say, "Oh, Chris, you're just thinking males are all awful roving males having sex with everybody," and and of course we've had this huge #MeToo campaign against precisely those kinds of males. You're absolutely right. But women dealt with these problems a long time ago, in the way we're describing. So all this stuff about Harvey White House or Donald Trump, all that stuff. These are the issues which were dealt with by early women in constructing culture, in establishing the human revolution. So in a way there's nothing new under the sun or the moon. It's all kind of happening again. I hope I've sort of answered the question. Yes.
That's interesting, thank you.